can you tell the jury what the columns and data this has?
So the first two columns are the person wearing the device's first and last name. The third column, column C, the events. That is any events that is logged by the device, including when the service was complete, anytime the location failed or communication failure occurred, typically due to a dead battery. There's also battery critical events, low battery, any type of event that the device records. And then column D is just the date and time that event was recorded.
Okay. Now, Mr. Bailey, I'm going to scroll down and ask you about a couple of these to March 14th at 7:34 p.m. Do you see that data? Can you show the jury where that date and time is on this Excel with the laser pointer?
Yes, March 14th at 7:34.
What is the event detail for this ankle monitor at this time?
At that time, it was a battery critical event.
Now, can you tell the jury what does battery critical mean?
Battery critical, it's below low battery. It's 10-15% battery remaining.
Would the person wearing the ankle monitor be alerted that the battery is in a critical state?
As with the low battery, it's the same type of event. At low battery, the device vibrates and there's a red light flashing if one were to look at it, and then at battery critical, the device again vibrates and that red light keeps flashing.
Now, do you see the entry above that? And if you could show the jury at March 15th, 2022 at 12:07 a.m. What is the event detail at that point?
At March 15th at 12:07 a.m., it was a potential dead battery event.
Now, I'm going to scroll up 2 rows and ask you about the next input. So after that 12:07 March 15th potential dead battery, what is the next event detail?
So the next two events at 12:07 and 12:11 a.m. on March 15th were communication failure and location failure when the device, the system realized the device had no longer been communicating or providing location data.
Now, with potential dead battery at 12:07, communication failure 12:07, and location failure 12:11, are those events connected in terms of in the system?
Yes, the assumption is that the device is no longer communicating because the battery has died. Obviously, the device can't communicate that it's dead. It can't phone home with a dead battery, but it's correlated, assumed that the device has died.
Now, can you go up to the next input in this Excel? So we have, what's the next date and time? You can show the jury.
So that is March 16th, 2022 at 8:41 p.m. There's a communications failure clear event.
What does that mean?
That would typically mean the device has been charged and is now communicating and ascertaining location once again.
So from March 14th, 2022, you have battery critical. When, can you explain to the jury, you have this potential dead battery at 12:07. Does that mean that the battery died at 12:07, or what's the time range of when this alert would come?
Not necessarily that it died at 12:07. I don't remember the exact configuration at the time, but it's typically 60 to 90 minutes prior to that. Like I said, the device can't report once it's dead because it's dead. So a certain period of time passes where it's out of communication, that the assumption is the battery's dead.
Would the event report Excel that's minute by minute help give clarity on when exactly it died?
Yes, sir.
Now, I am going to publish for you report 2 Excel spreadsheet. And I'm going to scroll to the very bottom or the oldest date of that document. And from reviewing this report while it's coming up in general, and I can ask you when it comes up, what is the time frame for report 2?
If I recall correctly, report 2 is from January of 2022 through March of 2022.
If we scroll to, so you see at the top it says January, and we're going to zoom in some. Can you explain for the jury while we're zooming in what these columns show?
Yes. So from what we can see here.
Can you use the laser pointer, Mr. Bailey? Thank you, sir.
Column B is the person wearing the monitor's last name.
And then date and time column.
Date and time column is column D.
What about those numbers in E and F?
So E and F, that is the latitude and longitude of the GPS coordinates.
And what is the address in column G next to the lat and longitude?
The address in column G is the closest address that the system can correlate to the specific latitude and longitude recorded.
And then what is column H?
Without seeing the header, I'm not sure. It's either accuracy or speed. It is accuracy.
Okay.
Column H.
And then column I?
And column I is the speed.
Okay. Now, and this is the one you described that's minute by minute?
Yes, sir.
So the last date, was it March 18th, and the first date was January 2nd of 2022?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, scrolling down, I wanted to ask you, is that roughly 2.5 months, give or take?
Yes, sir.
So if you wanted to see where the person wearing this ankle monitor was in terms of certain locations, if I control F or searched an address, would it populate how many times they've been at an address in 1 minute increments, or would it not?
Yes, sir.
So if I were to control F 2830 Waters RD for road and click find all, would that tell us how many times in minute increments the person wearing this ankle monitor was at that location in this 2.5 month span?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can you see, because it's kind of hard, what the cells found is in the bottom left?
It says 3,331 cells found.
So I'm not going to ask you to do this math, but is that 3,011 minutes at that address?
Yes.
Between January 2nd, 2022 and March 18th, 2022?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I wanted to orient you to 2:48 p.m. on March 14th. We're going to get to that location in this data, 2:48 p.m. on March 14th, 2022. And when it comes up, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. What is the location at 2:48 p.m.? And if you can use that pointer, Mr. Bailey, I appreciate it. Is that Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport?
Yes, sir.
And then do you see in the rows above 2300, 2200 Rental Car Center Parkway?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with what's at that location in general?
I believe that's the Hertz rent-a-car adjacent to the airport.
Now, we had talked earlier, but I wanted to ask you about the ScramNet GPS report. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe for the jury, this is minute by minute, what is captured on the ScramNet? Does that have every minute?
So the ScramNet, the stop report is more a summary. It's a named a stop report because you pre-configure a number of points at a location, and it'll only show you if the person has been there for more than that number of points.
Which would be 3 minutes?
On this specific report, yes. It's anything longer than 3 minutes. It marks down that they were there for longer than 3 minutes.
So if you wanted to check stable addresses for someone wearing the ankle monitor, would that ScramNet GPS be a good document to use?
Yes, sir. It eliminates travel time driving around because you're moving and not staying in the same location.
Now, I'm going to publish page 6 of 7, and you have the physical document before you, on what's
Yes.
So, Mr. Bailey, you can use that physical copy. We're going to zoom in on page 6 of 7 of that report on March 14, 2022 at 3:10 p.m. Now, while that's coming up, you know on the far right column of that document, it has a date and time. Can you tell the jury what that date and time means? As in, what kind of columns does this document show us while it comes up?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
If you go to the very first page of that report while we pull it up, what are the different columns of data that we're looking at?
So again, the first column is the name of the person wearing the device. The second column is the number of points, which with a point being approximately once a minute should be at least that number of minutes at the location. The third column does actually show the amount of time there. And fourth column is the address, again, the best correlated address from the grouping of GPS coordinates. And then the final column is the last date or time that they were at that location.
So if I was at 123 Main Street at 1 o'clock for 30 minutes, would the time on January 1st, just say, would the time and date on the far right be January 1st, 1:30, 123 Main Street?
Yes, sir.
And if the number of points indicated 30, then I was at that address for 30 minutes.
30 minutes prior to the last date and time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with what we were just discussing, do you see that 220 Rental Car Center Parkway on this? And if you can, use the screen. We tried to zoom in on it.
Yes.
And is that March 14, 2022 at 3:10 p.m.?
Yes, it is.
What is the next address that the monitor of Shannon Jackson went after the rental car location, or Rental Car Center Parkway, I should say?
So after that, it was at 2830 Waters Road, Atlanta, Georgia.
Now, I wanted to orient you to, we're going to scroll up a little bit to 6:30 p.m. on March 14th, 2022. And while that comes up, I'm going to approach you with what's labeled as 397 Victor Victor Bravo through 397 Victor Victor Juliet. Were you able to, in preparation for your testimony, review some locations that came up in this data?
Yes, sir, I was.
And did you have the opportunity to review those documents before testifying here today?
Yes, sir.
And what are they in general?
In general, these are locations that the monitor pinged at, showing that it was there at the locations.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 397 Victor Victor Bravo through Juliet.
No objection.
All right, those are admitted.
So, to orient the jury, this is March 14, 2022, what's displayed on the screen.
Yes, sir.
Can you describe the date and time in minutes for this 257 Flat Shoals Avenue, Southeast Atlanta, Georgia?
So it was March 14th, 2022 at 6:56 p.m. and then again at 7:52 p.m.
And is there also one at 6:30 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
And in general, with the amount of points or minutes there, what's a rough ballpark of how long at this address?
Just on the three on this page, approximately an hour and a half.
Now, I am going to publish what's just been admitted as 397 Victor Victor Bravo. It's going to come up on the screen. And we're going to zoom in a little bit, but is this 257 Flat Shoals Avenue Southeast if you were to look at it on Google Maps?
Yes, sir, it is.
And do you see that red Dodge truck in the
Yes,
far
sir.
left?
Yes, sir.
Do you see that writing behind the truck?
Yes, sir. Window tinting.
And is this the address we were just discussing for roughly hour and a half on March 14, 2022?
Yes, sir, it was.
Now, what is the, looking back on page 5 of the GramNet report, do you see a time at 8:36 p.m.?
On page 5, yes. March 14th, 2022, 8:36 p.m. is at 2830 Waters Road.
And after that, how many minutes is it at that address?
On this occasion, it says 3 minutes.
And do you see a 2830 Waters Road at 9:37 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
How many minutes is it at Waters Road on March 14, 2022 at 9:37 p.m.?
43 minutes.
Now, I'm going to go back to the report to minute by minute XL, and I'm going to go to March 14th, 2022 at 9:50 p.m. It's going to come up on the screen here in just a minute. And we'll publish this in a minute, but while that comes up, do you have well, here it comes. So, do you see the first entry at 464 Windsor Street Southwest?
Yes, sir. March 14th at 9:50 p.m.
I am going to publish 397 Victor Victor Charlie, and then come back to this document. Was this one of the addresses that you reviewed that was contained in this data, the 464 Windsor?
Yes, sir.
And on the screen, is this the 464 Windsor Street Southwest?
Yes, sir.
And is there a gas station at that location?
Yes, sir. It's a BP gas station, I believe.
And this is at 9:50 on March 14th, 2022.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go back to the report 2. If you look at this report minute by minute, can you tell how many minutes someone's at a location?
Yes, sir.
So starting at the first 464 Windsor at 9:50, we're going to scroll up a little bit until the last time we see 464 Windsor. We'll stop right there. What's the last time it's at 464 Windsor?
March 14th at 10 p.m.
And can you show the jury that with the laser? So it's at the ankle monitor for Shannon Jackson is at the BP gas station for about 10 minutes on
Yes.
March 14th.
Yes, sir.
Now, earlier you had described about this latitude and longitude that we see here. Do you remember that?
Yes,
If you put in latitude and longitude into Google, will it give you an address?
it will.
Now, at 10:01, does the address change from 464 Windsor Street?
It does. It changes to 405 Cooper Street.
Now, if you were to put in the latitude and longitude depicted there, would you also get that address? So I'm going to show you or publish what's admitted as 397 Victor Echo. And this is at 10:01 p.m. on March 14, 2022.
Yes,
And you see that red dot in the middle, is that GPS coordinate location?
that'd be the GPS coordinate, yes.
And do you see that King's Liquor and a FedEx icon on this map?
Yes, I think that's the back of the BP gas station, same lot.
So at 10 p.m., the ankle monitor is at 464 Windsor, the BP, and then at 10:01, it is this location of Windsor Street.
Right, yes, sir.
Now, going back to report 2, at 10:02, where is the ankle monitor's location? It's going to come up in just a second. We're going to scroll up one column. Do you see where it says PJV2 plus VR, Atlanta, Georgia?
Yes, sir.
Is that also an address you can put into Google to see where that ankle monitor is at 10:02?
It's closer to it like a GPS coordinate. They call it a plus code, but it's like more like a GPS coordinate than an address. But yes, you can search that in Google Maps and it'll show the location.
I am going to publish 397 Victor Victor Foxtrot. We're going to zoom in just a little. Is this that address at 10:02 p.m. on March 14th, 2022?
Yes, sir.
And is that the same King's Liquor and FedEx icons we see in blue on the bottom?
Yes, sir.
Is it fair to say that this is more north on Windsor Street than where it was 1 minute before?
Yes, sir. Just north.
And is that I-20 that major highway that you see depicted on this exhibit?
It is.
Now, I'm going to go back to report 2 and ask you, after that 10:02 p.m. March 14th input, about some of the addresses next depicted. So we're going to scroll up a little bit and keep that laser pointer handy, Mr. Bailey. We're going to put it to good use. Can you see on 10:05 I-20 and 10:07 I-20 on this XL?
Yes, I can.
And when the addresses change minute by minute, is that typically when someone is moving?
That would be indicative of traveling, yes.
Now, going back to, or I'm going to say this, we're going to scroll to the right, to the column. You had mentioned earlier about speed and of the ankle monitor.
Yes, sir.
If I'm in a vehicle, will it track the speed of my vehicle?
Yes, sir.
I mean, in terms of my ankle monitor while I'm moving.
Yes, yeah, I believe it just takes the distance between the 2 points and the time it took. Divide distance by time, you get speed.
And was it column I that is the speed?
Yes, it is.
Now, what's the speed when it's at the intersection PJV2 plus VR at 10 o'clock? What was the intersection right there?
At that intersection, it's reading 18 miles per hour.
And can you use that laser pointer, Mr. Bailey, to
Yes.
show the jury? Now, 1 minute later at 10:03 p.m., how fast is the ankle monitor of Shannon Jackson going on March 14th, 2022?
It says 90 miles an hour.
And at 10:04 p.m. on March 14th, 2022, how fast is the ankle monitor of Shannon Jackson going?
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this point.
What time did you ask about?
10:04 p.m.
Overruled.
At 10:04 p.m., it says 83 miles per hour.
Now, Mr. Bailey, how fast is it at 7:05 p.m.? Can you use that laser pointer, Mr. Bailey? Thank you, sir.
You mean at 10:05 p.m.?
Sorry, 10:05. Yes, sir.
That'd be 77 miles an hour.
What about at 10:06 p.m.?
10:06 p.m. is 80 miles an hour.
10:07 p.m.?
10:07 p.m. is 85 miles an hour.
I'm going to go up another column to 10:08 p.m.
10:08 p.m. is 79 miles an hour.
Now, I'm going to go back to the ScramNet GPS report to specifically where we get to 464 Windsor Street, Southwest, Atlanta, Georgia, on March 14th that we were just discussing.
Okay, yes, sir.
What is the next stable address after that? Captured on that report.
So after Windsor Street, March 14th at 10 p.m., the next address where the device, where the stop report marked that it was longer than 3 minutes was 600 Interchange Drive in Atlanta, and it says it was there for 38 minutes, ending at 10:55 p.m.
Now, I'm going to publish 397 Victor Victor Golf. Can you orient the jury what these two addresses show?
So the right side of the screen is, I believe, the Windsor Street starting location.
And the left icon,
Is the 600 Interchange Drive.
and that this is just a Google map demonstrative, but what's highlighted in this screen is that I-20 going westbound.
That is the route between the two, yes, sir.
I am going to publish. Oh, I wanted to ask you something else. Going back to the, remember how earlier we had mentioned to you about the battery critical and then getting recharged?
Yes, sir.
On this report 2 data on March 14th, 2022, we're going to pull it up now, and I'm going to ask you if the minute-by-minute increments ever stop. So we're going to scroll up a little bit. And is this the 600 Interchange Drive we were just discussing?
Yes, it is.
Now, I'm going to stop here. And can you use this laser pointer, Mr. Bailey? And can you show the jury the last data point on March 14th, 2022? What time is that?
So the last data point on March 14th, 2022 was at 11 p.m. at 600 Interchange Drive. And then the following data point was almost 48 hours later, March 16th at 10 p.m.
Does this coincide with what we first talked about, the battery critical and then the communication clear?
Yes, if I recall correctly from the event log, there was a battery critical preceding that last data point on March 14th.
And between 11 p.m. on March 14th, 2022 till March 16th, 2022 at 10 p.m., are you able to get any location data from the ankle monitor?
No, sir.
Now, when the ankle monitor does plug or comes back online to register data, what is the address?
The address is 7055 Concourse Parkway in Douglasville.
And is that at 10 p.m. on March 16th, 2022?
Yes, sir, it is.
Now, I am going to publish 397 Victor Victor India. And if you want to get ahead of me, you can, Mr. Bailey, because you have the hard copies, but it should also come up on the screen. Is this the address that comes up for that 7055 Concourse Parkway?
Yes, sir. It appears to be a hotel.
Now, looking back at the Scram report that you have, is the ankle monitor at that hotel location for quite some time?
Yes, sir. Yeah, at least several hours. At least until March 17th, 10:52 a.m. It's a little over 12 hours later.
So what is the next address after that 10:52 a.m. on March 17, 2022 at the Concourse Hotel location?
The next address after leaving Concourse Parkway was 2481 Meadowlark Drive in East Point. That was March 17th at 11:37 a.m. was the last point at that location.
And I'm going to publish the Scram report on page 2. Is this what you were just discussing in terms of the 10:52 a.m. March 17th is the last time it hits at that Concourse address, and then the address above that is the Meadowlark Drive?
Yes, sir.
Do you see on this report, the third from the top, a 50 Mount Zion Road Southeast?
Yes, sir, I do.
Do you know what's at 50 Mount Zion Road Southeast?
I do not.
What is the time and how long is the location at that site?
So 50 Mount Zion Road, the last point at that location was March 17th at 1:22 p.m. And it says it was there for 20 minutes, so it would be from 1:02 p.m. to 1:22 p.m.
Now, I want to fast forward to page 1 of this report at 2:56 p.m. on March 17th, 2022. What is the location at that time?
At 2:56 p.m. on March 17th, it was 1065 Cleveland Ave in East Point.
And was that also one of the locations that you looked at in preparation for your testimony?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to publish 397 Victor Victor Juliet. And this is 2:56 p.m. on March 17, 2022.
Yes, sir.
Does it appear to be a Chick-fil-A?
Yes, sir.
Now, after that location, what, from the Scram report, what is the next stable address that the ankle monitor reports location data for?
Be back to the Meadowlark Drive in Atlanta.
And does it have numerous data points at the Meadowlark Drive in East Point, Georgia, or Atlanta, Georgia, you see the report where it has the different Meadowlark Drives?
Yes, sir.
And does that continue for some time at that location?
Yes, sir. From at least 3:10 p.m. to 3:51 p.m., about 40 minutes.
One brief moment, Your Honor. Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey. No further questions by the state.
Yes, sir.